Have you ever tried to slow your breathing during a workout, thinking that it would actually help you to feel calmer, but instead it's made things feel worse? You're not imagining it. Controlling your breathing can increase your sense of effort. Let's unpack why the science says this and what we should be doing instead. It's a common belief in the breath space, in individuals who are breath coaches, that if they learn to slow your breathing during exercise, that it will lower fatigue and it will reduce the perceived effort. But this might be oversimplifying things, and it might be using the wrong or inappropriate language. I think we need to move away from the word control. Andrea Nicolo he is a professor at the University of Rome who has done a series of different studies that look at respiratory rate. And respiratory rate correlates very strongly with perceived exertion, more so than it does with heart rate, more so than it does with lactate. However, correlation doesn't mean causation. They rise together because they have the same control systems. Central command is the brain's motor center that sends signals simultaneous to our muscles, to our cardio systems, to our respiratory systems. And you could say it's the overall driver of sympathetic activity that allows for an increase in arousal during exercise or during effort. So as effort increases, both perceived exertion will increase as well as breathing rate. So it's not that breathing faster makes you feel tired, although it might not be that efficient. It's that feeling tired and feeling as if you are under fatigue, you're feeling aroused, makes your breathing faster. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the other way around. When we consciously try to control our breathing through counting, through forcing calm, through trying to catch the exhale and consciously slow it down, you're actually recruiting more of your conscious cortex. This is going to increase central command, the driver of effort, the driver of respiratory rate. So paradoxically, trying to relax by controlling your breathing during exercise is likely to make it feel harder. You may eventually habituate to this. But then what you've done is you've created a new breathing behavior that might not now align with how your chemoreceptors and feedback systems are trying to maintain homeostasis. An example would be, it's like trying to run whilst thinking about every foot placement. You lose that intuitive rhythm. You start overthinking things. You start using parts of the brain that you shouldn't be using whilst you're exercising and breathing. Instead of control, instead of force, how about we just lean in and allow? How about we just learn to relax through sensation? This is what's going to reduce the cortical noise and reduce the central command and reduce the respiratory rate, which then will reduce the perceived exertion. So the other day I was sat on my bike and I was playing around with some of this. And I was thinking to myself, right, I'm going to pick up the pace of my exercise on the bike. I'm going to start moving until my legs start to feel as if they are burning. And I'm going to consciously pay attention to my behavioral response. Now, when I started to consciously become aware of the sensations of burning in my legs, what I noticed, my breathing becomes restricted. And I started to look at the clock of how long's left and when this was over, and I started trying to escape the sensation. Now, when I tried to consciously slow my breathing and bring on air hunger, when that air hunger was then becoming too much for the system, outside my window of tolerance, again, my breathing constricted, and I actually felt more aroused, I felt more effort. But then when I actually just let go and just became mindful and became the observer of my breathing, then everything dissipated. Arousal came down, air hunger disappeared, and the sensations of effort disappeared, and I could actually pick my pace up more. Maybe we start by just focusing on nasal breathing during a warm-up. During low to intensity exercise, we breathe nasally and just allow ourselves to relax into those sensations. But when the intensity increases and mouth breathing needs to emerge, just allow it to happen. Focusing on smooth transitions and softness, not timing. Not trying to suppress something that's automatic, but allowing it to appear. So perceived exertion is what drives respiratory rate, not the other way around. Conscious control is going to increase the effort, whereas rhythmic relaxation is going to reduce it. Next time you try and train, try not to control your breathing. Even using that language, control, it sounds forceful. It sounds like you have to do something. But instead, you want to learn to relax into this. Now, of course, this means doing the work outside of the exercise. If you're a person who's overwhelmed, who's stressed, low HRV, you've got lots of things going on in your life, lots of things going on in your mind. If you're not able to detach from that, and that comes into your exercise, and you're thinking about it, and you're getting caught in it, and whenever you feel sensations and pain and suffering, you're then trying to control on top of that, well, you're going to increase cortical effort. You're going to increase central command, and that's going to try and drive up your respiratory rate. Then you're doing the opposite of what your brain is trying to do. What you're then generating is a false predictive error, which will then drive up air hunger even further. Now, you might then eventually habituate to that, but what you're going to create is a new breathing pattern that is going to be mismatched to the level of CO2 and O2 in the system. So let's just allow breathing to happen. Let's become more mindful. Let's do the work outside of the exercise to make our breathing during exercise easier. So if you enjoyed this and you want to understand the real science behind breathing, stress, and performance, then check out the School of Breath Science, linked in the description below. And if you've ever experimented with breath control during training, drop a comment. Did it make it easier for you? Did it make it harder for you? And if you want to go out there and go into your training now and just see whether you can disengage from your breathing, and when you do start to notice things become challenging, see whether you can become mindful and observe for a bit. Let me know how that goes in the comments as well. And of course, like and subscribe.